Anger destroys good judgment. We have seen how desire is like a two-edged sword. Its fulfillment leads to greed, and its hindrance leads to anger. Once anger arises, it brings with it numerous other afflictions. Lord Krishna states, Krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammohat smriti vibraham, smriti भ्रनशत् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशत् pranashayati. Anger leads to wheeling of judgment, which results in bewilderment of memory. When the memory is bewildered, the intellect gets destroyed, and when the intellect is destroyed, one is ruined. Anger clouds the intellect. Just as the morning mist creates a hazy covering on sunlight, when the intellect is shrouded, it leads to bewilderment of memory. The person then forgets what is right and what is wrong and flows along with the surge of emotions. Bewilderment of memory results in destruction of the intellect. Since intellect is our internal guide, when it gets destroyed, one is ruined. In this manner, a host of mental afflictions arise from desire. Now, let us look at the reverse of this. If we eradicate desire, greed will naturally disappear. So will anger. In that case, none of the other sequential afflictions after anger will arise. The mind will be mastered merely by the conquest of desire. If desire is the cause of all problems, let us see what is it that gives rise to desire. The malady of attachment. We all experience different desires. While reading this book, someone's mind may wander to tea, another's mind may start thinking of cricket, while yet another's mind may ramble towards her child. Why is it that the mind of individuals generates such dissimilar desires? What is causing this variety of cravings? One person desires prestige to the extent that he is willing to give 15 lectures a day to get elected. Another desires money to the extent that he neglects his family to earn it. The third desires his paramour and is willing to sacrifice all his wealth on her. Where does desire originate from? The answer is that when our mind is attached to something, we experience desire for it. The cause of desire is attachment. The mind is a frequent visitor to the thing and people it most devoted to. In other words, one is attached to alcohol, the desire for alcohol comes frequently to the mind. If attached to cigarettes, then thoughts of the pleasure of smoking cigarette continually flow in the mind, creating a craving for them. In this way, attachment leads to desire. The point may seem to go against common sense. It would seem logical to think that the intrinsic qualities of an object make us desire it, but this is really not the case. For example, alcohol has no attractive aroma. It is foul-smelling and obnoxious. And the very first time we taste it, we actually do not like it. Yet the same foul smell is so enticing to an alcoholic that when he passes by the pub, he begins swaying. The odor of alcohol, which makes one want to vomit, spark the other's craving. The difference is due to attachment. The alcoholic's craving is coming from his attachment to alcohol. Here is another example. Is the smoke from cigarettes pleasant or filthy? You may say it is awful. It makes me want to turn around and go the other way. Then why is it so attractive to the addict? Because of his own attachment to it. It is not the intrinsic property of cigarettes, but the attachment within the addict's mind that creates a craving for them. Let me repeat this for emphasis. It is our intrinsic attachment to an object, not its intrinsic properties, which create desire for it. Let me cite yet another example. A mother lost her child in a fair. She went to the police booth and filed a complaint about her missing child. The policeman said, "Mother, 4 lost and found children have been brought to your booth. See which of these kids is yours." The mother looked at all of them and responded, "None of these is my child." "But you say such beautiful children," said the policeman. "Why don't you pick any of them and hug her with maternal affection? Why are you hankering for your child alone?" The mother replied, "Mr. Policeman, you will never understand the heart of a mother. I will only be able to sleep after I see my little child." The mother does not want beauty. She wants her child, to whom her mind is attached. Thus, the cause of desire is determined. It is attachment. The full link is now clear. If we harbor attachment, it will lead to desire. From desire will arise anger and greed. From anger will arise subsequent afflictions like illusion. Conversely, if we can estimate attachment, there will be no scope for desire, and all subsequent affliction will automatically cease. This brings us to the $1 million question. What is the cause of attachment? The next section explains it. The impact of repetitive thinking. Not everyone's mind is attached to the same thing. Someone is so committed to golf that his wife is practically a golf widow. The other is so attached to his wife that he spends all his money on pleasing her. The third is so devoted to money that he has no time to spend with his family. We all have different attachments. Let us try to understand their source. When our mind repeatedly revises the thought, "There is happiness in this object or person," our mind develops attachment to that object or person. For example, in a class, many boys and girls interact innocuously with each other. One day, one boy notices something about a girl and starts thinking, "I would be very happy if she were mine." As he continuously repeats this thought, his mind becomes attached to her. He tells his friends that he is madly in love with her, and he is unable to study because his mind repeatedly thinks about her. His friends ridicule him that they all interact with her in class, but none of them is crazy about her. Why is he losing his sleep and ruining his grades thinking of her? The reason is that he repeatedly contemplated happiness in the girl, and as a result, his mind became attached to her. Consider a second example illustrating how attachment develops. How does one become attached to alcohol? There is no one who says in the beginning itself, "Get me the bottle, I cannot live without it." Rather, on the first day, alcohol tastes awful and people force themselves to drink it. Nevertheless, their friends convince them. We all get great pleasure from whiskey. Drink and enjoy life. ill advised by others. A person thinks, my friends are loving it, I will too. He tries a drink and gets a tiny kick from the inebriation of the brain. The person begins contemplating happiness in the feeling of mental lightness. The more he consumes alcohol, the more he contemplates happiness in it. The deeper the attachment grows until finally he becomes an alcoholic. Then the same person who had forced himself to drink on the first day now says, I do not care about my family, let my business get ruined, never mind if my liver is spoiled, but give me the fifth peg of vodka. I cannot live without it. How did this transformation take place? It was his own repeated thinking of happiness in alcohol that led to the addiction. Now the full link is clear. The chain of causation is also stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa sangas teshu pajapadaye teshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamah kamat krodha bhijayate. By repeated contemplation of happiness in the objects of the senses, one develops attachment to them. Attachment creates desire, and from desire arises anger. Why we all seek happiness? We have seen how the chain of mental afflictions begins with the contemplation of happiness. Let us now come to the last link in this chain. Why do we seek happiness? We try to find it in our family, work, hobbies, activities, and in everything else we do. Yet, it eludes us. Even after so many disappointments, why do we not stop seeking happiness? The Vedas state, Anando Brahmati Vyajanat. No God to be of the nature of bliss. The Supreme Lord is an infinite ocean of divine bliss, and we souls are his fragmental parts. By nature, each part is spontaneously attracted towards its source. A lump of mud is a part of the earth and is pulled towards it by the force of gravity. A river is created by water vapor arising from the sea, and it flows back into the sea. Similarly, we souls are little drops of the ocean of infinite happiness, and hence our natural propensity is to seek bliss. Until we get the infinite happiness of God, we will not be content. In other words, until the part or our tiny soul attains the whole, the Supreme Soul, we will not stop our quest for happiness. Somewhere or the other, we will contemplate bliss, and once that happens, the whole chain of attachment, desire, anger, and greed will naturally follow. We have understood that to seek bliss is our inherent nature. We cannot change it. How then can we rise above these mental afflictions? The solution to this problem is actually very simple. Make anger your friend. We have seen that the desire leads to anger and greed. The desire for normal things is no exception to this rule. When it is not fulfilled, the devotee also feels anger. The key is to channel this anger in the proper direction. Thus, in the Ramayana, a devotee of Lord Ram says, Ha Raghunanda pran pirite, tumha binu jiyate bahut din beete. O Lord Ram, how heartless I am that without your devotion I still continue to live. When anger is directed constructively, it propels us more rapidly on the upward path. If we become angry at ourselves for the lack of improvement, We strive to try harder. We refuse to compromise and prod our mind forward and upward. In this way, by channeling anger in the proper manner, we can make it our friend. Make greed your friend. We have learned that the fulfillment of desire leads to greed. Similarly, sublime desires lead to divine greed. The devotee yearns for more devotion, more divine, and more service. Such greed is very helpful since it keeps one hungry for further progress. In this fashion, a devotee says, Sita Ram Charan Rati More, Anudina Bharau Anugraha Tore. O Sita Ram, I pray that my loving devotion at your feet may increase day and night. This is sublime greed, which is no longer detrimental. Instead, it elevates one to even greater spiritual heights. What about envy? Like the rest, if it is properly oriented, it becomes helpful. When we see others ahead of us in spiritual path, we should think she began attending J.K. Yoga's life transformation program along with me. She has progressed so rapidly and developed such immense patience and tolerance. Why am I left behind? I too must try harder for self-improvement. Make pride your friend. The biggest of all material defects is pride, which is extremely difficult to overcome. People become scholars of the scriptures and masters of austerity and yet remain full of pride. Once again, the ego can be neutralized easily by dovetailing it towards the Supreme. Expressing this sentiment, Hanuman says, As abhimana jai jani bhore, मैं सेवक रघुपति मोरे. May this pride never leave me that my master is the greatest Lord Ram and I am the servant of such a great master. Pride in the Lord strengthens faith and enthusiasm for devotion. We have seen how all the mental afflictions, the worst enemies within, become our best friend when they are properly directed. This is powerful information for changing ourselves. Now, for internal transformation to be permanent and not fleeting, we must tap into the power of habits. How do we dismantle old habits and develop beneficial ones? Let us discuss how we can install great habits within ourselves.